Welcome to the workshop for KidStudio. So this is a program where students produce music with their professors. It's really fun. I've been doing it for a while now. I started last year, and it's really just an outlet for the students to really get away from piano. Not to say that piano isn't fun, of course, but we all need those outlets because doing the same thing day in and day out can get kind of redundant. So this is a really good way for them just to escape and explore other interests that are still within music. So what is KidStudio? So essentially, it's a program where students learn how to convert random ideas into music and then produce it with their professor or their teacher. So I do this through the use of three main categories, one being the purpose, which I'll get into in a minute, the second one, the foundation or foundations of music, and then three being technical terms. Now with your purpose, number one, the first thing I always do is I ask my students, what are you interested in? Do you want to write a song? And if you do, what do you want to write it about and why? So I have some floating questions here, and of course I'll put more later on, but it's really as simple as that, because some students, and I'm sure when you were all learning piano when you were younger, you'd always dabble in the piano, you'll just play things, you may repeat or loop a riff that you liked on a, classical piece, but you can turn those into music and even, add some other embellishments into it. And I hear a lot of students do this anyways. During our lessons, they'll just play something random when I'm rambling about whatever theory. So it's really cool when they play something small, because I'll ask them like, hey, what was that? Play that again. Why did you, do that? And then we go into it, we expand on it. And then in a couple of weeks, they have their own piece, and it's really, really cool. So the first step is always to just ask them, what do you want to write about? And then why do you want to write it? The next step here is just breaking down the foundation of music. What is it? So when I was in public schools, I would always tell students, music is just a collection of organized sound. That's all it is. I say organized because if you just heard random sounds, birds chirping, it's like, what is this random sound? It has to be a collective collection of organized sound. And we organize sounds through, the metronome, the beat, that pulse that is always going. I call the metronome the musical clock because I need to know that something in the background is keeping everything together and organized. So the next step is to explain to them, okay, you want to write a song about dogs. You want it to be happy. Okay. So what instruments would you use? What sound qualities? What do you want to put together to really portray this story or this emotion to the audiences listening to your piece? And then we go in about that, maybe 5-10 minutes. And then I ask them finally, just play what you have. It could be anything. I'm not going to record you, put you on the spot. They play it. It sounds really good. Or it doesn't, and we work on it. It's okay. As long as they have that idea, that's the number one thing. They have their purpose. Now they actually put it on the piano. It's game time from there. So the third thing, this one is kind of a lot, but it's just the technical terms. So I like to call it the word of the day because you can, so as I open up GarageBand, you can use anything, honestly, but I use GarageBand. So as I open this up, I have a piece already for them and they tell me what they like, what they don't, but you can always throw something in there that they don't know. Like let's talk about timbre today, your sound qualities. They may not know what that is. The next day may be about rhythms. A lot of our young musicians already know what rhythm is, but we can really break it down and show them you can play these rhythms on other instruments. So if you just break it down little by little, they're not going to be overwhelmed. They're not going to be overstimulated. And our lessons are pretty short anyways. I've never had to teach a student outside of our 15-minute lessons or 30-minute lessons for KidStudio. It's always within our lessons, a little brain break, if you will. So you can save this for Fridays if you want, but it's a really good way just to get them, as I mentioned earlier, just an outlet away from teaching piano all the time or them learning theory and things in that nature. So that's pretty much in a nutshell what KidStudio is. You really just convert ideas into music. Whatever they like, let's make it into a song. That's pretty much what it is. So time for a quick Q&A. Some of you already know what KidStudio is. You're doing very well with it, and others didn't really know too much until today. So give me some pointers. Where do you see room for improvement, or what comments do you have?
I think KidStudio is awesome. I have a couple students who have already kind of done this. I've done this with, and I think it's nice because it promotes what I've called before reverse learning, which is where they're not being pushed to learn somebody else's thing. They're learning about why that person wrote those things the way they did because they're also now doing the same. Like, how can we? It's kind of like because if we think about sheet music, it's very much like a way of communicating something to somebody else, right? So if you think about it like communication, they're learning in the process of composition, they're learning to communicate to others rather than receiving the communication of that composer or whoever. So it's kind of cool to be on the other end of that. And they learn a lot in the process, and they can transfer that knowledge to when they actually do end up learning something else. So
Hmm. Yeah,
I
I'm
love
glad you
it. It's
said
great.
that. Thank you. Yeah, I'm glad you said that because that goes back to my point earlier with, taking this as an outlet. So you're still learning things that deal with music, but you're taking this and you're incorporating it with that. So it's a big, turnaround. It's a big circle. You're learning this over here, you're learning this, but it's from the same exact sphere. So I like that you reiterated that. Really cool. So as I mentioned earlier, I do this, during our lessons. Now, when I talk to public schools, of course, it'll be, like a summer camp program or something outside. It's not gonna be like, in the middle of math class or something. But for now, since we are a music company, it's during our lessons. It could be a fun Friday or, any day of the week whenever they have an idea. So I just kind of, throw it out there. Hey, I hear a little jingle that you're working on. What it is? What is it? Let's expand on it. Or I can just ask them if they're not even writing anything. You'll be surprised that they have been dabbling, just not around you. But some of my students are actually kind of scared to like bring things up. I'm like, I'm really chill. Like, it's okay. What are you working on? I was talking to a student yesterday. That episode's coming out soon. I won't say her name, but I asked her randomly, and she's like, "Oh yeah, this sounds really cool." She likes Roblox. I said I had another student who wrote about Roblox, and she went at it. It was really cool. So I can't wait to write that song with her. But it's really just one question away, and I won't be surprised if every single student of yours wants to do this eventually. But really cool. Any other comments or questions?
Yeah, I really like the idea and I love how creative it is and the way it shakes things up in the regular schedule. Um, I've kind of experimented a little bit with improvising activities with certain students, which is, I know it's a bit different from what this is, but one thing I come up with certain students is I'll say, "Oh, let's make dog sounds," and they'll be like, "I don't know how to make dog sounds," and I'm like, "Well, you can try maybe," and they'll be like, "Mm-mm." So, what do you do when a student is very shy about coming up with their own ideas? What are some of the tricks?
Yeah, really good question. So when it does come to them being a little timid, not wanting to say anything, really with that first question, because actually, perfect example, the same student I mentioned earlier with the Roblox, she is very quiet. So I was even like, oh, I need to ask her. I want to ask her. So I did, and she was pretty timid at first. But what I did was I found other examples from the episodes I've uploaded to YouTube. So she saw other students her age doing it too. If they can do it, I can do it. And then two, I want to say I got lucky, but in a sense I kind of did because I know she liked Roblox. Luckily, I had other examples up there, so I went through a couple of them. I was like, oh, this one wrote about literally clouds in the sky. It was a beautiful piece, but he said I like clouds in the sky, so I'll write about that. So I went through that one, and then she saw Roblox. So I clicked that one, but bam, that was it. So really, just showing them that other students like her or like him can do the same thing. That's how I kind of got her out of her comfort zone a little bit.
Yeah, that
She
makes
was into it,
sense.
like you mentioned. Like she was interested. She was just a little shy. I had to get her out of that
Hmm.
a little bit.
Hmm. Hmm.
But yeah, really good question.
Well, thank you.
Yeah. But yeah, so just, circling back to the beginning, it really is this simple. Like I really, stress the purpose. Everyone has a reason for why they're playing music in the first place, and music is full of emotion and, just telling a story, whether they believe that or not, it really does, the dopamine and all the scientific, but they love it. So if you really just ask them, you can ask them why you're learning piano and you'll be surprised what you get. Cause I've never asked my students that, now that I think, but I never did. But if you ask them that question, kind of like a pre-surface until a good segue into these questions, maybe that'll help you a little bit too. Instead of just going in, oh, let's write a song that we should write about. That's maybe too early. So if you ask them, why do you like music in the first place? And then usually I say that, and then I'll go into what do you like in general? What are your interests outside of piano? And then we can collide them. And then that's how KidStudio is born. So yeah, that's really good. Any other lingering thoughts before we end it here? It's gonna be really short. I don't like keeping people's time, so
One more thing.
yeah.
Technically, this is like the technical or logistical aspect of it. Do you normally like write down their idea on like sheet, like a music sheet, or do you go straight into the DAW and start working?
Yeah, good question. So I just recently started going right into the DAW, but with a lot of the episodes, you'll see how there's like a little score at the top and it rolls as they're playing it. So I like to do both because, a lot of our pianists do see, music all the time on paper. So it's a good way for them to see, hey, this is still music on a sheet. I'm just looking at it in a different way. and then I introduce the DAW to them later. So it's always through the score of the sheet music first. Yeah. And then if you want to go straight into the DAW anyways, I mean, it's fine. Just another skill that they'll learn and adapt to. So you don't have to necessarily use, the compositional aspect, but I just have to do that anyways because we see it every day. So yeah, cool, cool. Elan or Nancy, you have any, lingering thoughts or questions?
Um, no, I thought it was really interesting. Sorry, I was a few minutes late. I use something similar with some of my students. Like on Fridays, I'll be like, "Do you want to learn a fun piece, write a song, or just keep doing your stuff?" And like, so sometimes they'll be like, "Yeah, I want to write a song." And so sometimes what I'll do is I'll say, "Okay, where do we want our hands? What finger do you want to start with? What note do you want to start with? What hand do you want to start with?" And so like sometimes just kind of breaking it down for them like that so that they're not like overwhelmed by like, oh, there's 88 different keys that I could potentially start with or whatever. And so it just kind of like breaks it down. But I really liked the idea of like having them come with a storyline first. I like that idea. I've never thought about it like that. I mean, I guess I have, but not with like kids and stuff. So that was really interesting.
Yeah, thanks. And I'm glad you mentioned that you really guide them to the composition or to their piece because I can't recall which student it was, but I literally told him, okay, what are you interested in? He told me what it was. He couldn't think of a jingle, but there was already a jingle for the video game.
Mm-hmm.
So I literally took the first two letters, like I made his phrase into an acronym. There's like a D and an A. I said, okay, start with those two letters. What we made was like, it was great. I love the piece. It's one of my favorite pieces. But yeah, if you just have to take the first letters of a piece, D, A, or C, he played those in a different order. And we literally started it just from an acronym. So you'll be surprised. And even, famous songs, on the radio today, like you'll be surprised how they were born. So yeah, it doesn't have to be some, theoretical way of figuring things out. It can be simple as ABC and then played CBA, BAC. I don't know. But yeah, really cool. So if there are no other comments or questions, we can end it right here. I appreciate you all coming out and attending this first workshop. So there will be more to come. If you have any other lingering thoughts, just shoot me a text or an email and then we'll go from there. Okay.
Thank you so much.
All right. Take care.
Thank you.
You